Welcome everyone to another monthly webinar. This month, we're going to be talking about side hustles and small businesses. First off, we're going to talk about who this presentation would be best for. 3 phases of starting a small business or side hustle: business accounting and also business taxes. So who's this presentation for? Who should be watching this? Anyone who's interested in doing gig work, freelancing, contracting, or owning and operating a small business. Someone who's interested in starting a business, but maybe doesn't know how to, doesn't know where to start, has questions, doesn't know where to go for answers. This presentation will hopefully get that person starting down the right path, give some foundational information, and not create future headaches, and hopefully a successful business. So phase 1, so you're going to start a small business or a side hustle. Ask yourself, what is your skill set? What skills do I have that other people need? And some easy skills to think about are like school subjects. Do you excel in languages or math or science? You can tutor people, right? $20, $40 an hour, maybe more. Make a nice side hustle very, very easily. And it has to be something you enjoy as well. It's really important that your small business or side hustle is something that you enjoy. So beyond the marketable skill of your language or your knowledge, you also need to have business skills, and that's organization, face-to-face interactions, sales, marketing, all of that, and accounting, which we'll talk about. Ask yourself, when you're daydreaming about your business, your small business, who do you want to work with? Who do you enjoy working with? If you've ever worked retail, you've encountered the broad range of society. And I'm sure that you found that some people you prefer working with and others are more difficult, or you just don't mesh with as well. And as you're getting started on your journey, it's really important for you to focus in on those people who energize you and will help you to continue in the business, because it can be rough sometimes. Ask yourself, how would owning your own income change your life? Maybe you would feel more secure. You're not reliant on your boss to keep you employed. Maybe you're then able to set your own hours, work from anywhere like I do. So there's a lot of opportunity when you have your own small business, when you own your own income. It can change your life. And also when you're starting this business, when you're just thinking about how could I do this, ask what you can give back. What value can you provide to your community? A very simple example is when I'm driving out of my neighborhood, I see signs along the road for a painter, just a local painter. They're providing value. My wife and I just painted a few rooms ourselves, and we could have called this guy and it would have saved us time, right? Time and effort. So that's the value that his businesses bring. All right, phase 2. So you've done your daydreaming, you have identified the skills, the value that you can bring to your community, and now you need to start putting that into motion. So there will be a launch date when your business begins. Before that launch date, you want to stack the deck as much as possible. Before you start spending any money, before you start, starting a website, maybe renting a retail space, whatever your business is, before you do any of that, prepare yourself. Prepare everything around you for that launch date. Talk to people like your ideal client. Figure out who your ideal client is, who you like working with, that can also afford your services and will find them valuable. And then find people like that and call them or email them. Figure out what problems they have. Ask more deep and open questions to figure out how you can provide amazing value to them. Ask them if they have ever used a service like yours before. If they have, ask what they found valuable in that service. And if they haven't, ask if they know anyone that would be interested in it. Another great idea is to ask if they would be comfortable referring other people to you. So you have to build some trust, have the right credentials in place, so that way, their reputation isn't on the line when they refer people to you. They can be confident that you'll do a good job. Pre-orders and wait lists are a great example of what I'm talking about here. If you can open a web page and then start taking pre-orders for something that you haven't spent any money on, think like the Tesla, cars do this all the time. They take pre-orders. So that way they understand the demand that they're dealing with and they can act accordingly. And if you're going to do a service business, I recommend finding 3 clients before your launch, just so that you have some momentum going into the business And the business can really sustain itself without you needing to draw down on your personal finances. So that can be your mom, that can be your best friend, and then just one other person. Okay. So phase 2, we're still stacking the deck. We need to figure out what kind of business entity do we need. Do we not need a business entity at all? Do we need an LLC or an S Corp? So the most accessible would be no entity at all. This is just a sole proprietorship. You have just a separate bank account and there's no other entity. It's just you. Some vendors or customers won't work with sole proprietors. They need the liability protections of the LLC or S Corp. So that will help inform your decision. And if your business is ever going to have investors or partners, that will also help you make your decision. Maybe it's a multi-member LLC or an S Corp, both of which would allow partners and investors. You're not married to these. They can be changed in the future. It's just a bit of a pain to change them later down the line. So we're starting with the end in mind. So while you're in this phase of stacking the deck, you figured out your entity, or maybe you haven't, it's a great opportunity to search your community and find local experts. Be wary of anyone calling themselves an expert, but definitely talk to those people who you think are experts, who you find to be experts. So these would be lawyers, CPAs, financial advisors, and then industry mentors. Someone who you get along with, you like being around, and then can help steer you in that right direction. And while you haven't launched yet, you're still stacking the deck, build one marketing funnel. So this starts with awareness, it goes down to a mid funnel, and then you've qualified those people and you have a smaller pool of prospective clients. This is a whole game into itself, something I'm learning, but marketing is so important. So starting that single funnel so you don't get distracted by other funnels, because there's so many opportunities out there and options for funnels. I suggest either a website or a simple landing page, or you can also use your existing social media pages and just advertise your small business or your side hustle. So phase 3, you've been daydreaming, you've got all these great ideas, you're going to change the world, you've stacked the deck, you've prepared yourself for your launch date, and you've launched. And suddenly you have 3 clients because you've prepared yourself, and you need to start charging them for your services. So you need a payment processor. So 2 good payment processors are Stripe and QuickBooks. They're very similar in that they can both allow you to take credit cards, which is very important. The credit cards allow people to spend with less friction. And so you want to make it as easy as possible for your clients to do business with you. And a good payment processor will help with that. I'm a little biased towards QuickBooks. QuickBooks, not only am I like a Intuit certified bookkeeper, but QuickBooks also allows a one-stop shop for invoicing, bookkeeping, as well as payment processing. So we'll talk a little bit more about that later. And then once you've started to make money and also spend money, you've got to figure out what is your profit. So net profit, this is what you're netting at the end of the year. What are you taking home? And the equation here, net profit is total revenue minus total expenses. So really simple. And you can also ask yourself, once you've figured out your net profit, what has my margin been on these sales? Am I in a high margin business? Am I in a low margin business? And how do I stack up with my industry? Am I not charging enough? Are my expenses too high? Is my margin in line or not? Gross revenue. So this is revenue minus your cost of goods. So COGS is labor. It's a little complicated, and you don't really need to go into this. You can if you want to separate the costs that go into your product from the overhead expenses you have, like rent or utilities. These aren't included in COGS. So you can get just a different look on how much revenue am I really making per sale, per product, versus like the business as a whole with all those supporting expenses. All right, next, business accounting. So you need to find a bank. You need either a separate personal bank account, just at whatever bank you're using right now. Just open up a separate account if you're going to be a sole proprietor. And the purpose of that is just to separate business finances from personal finances. This is really important because the business is taxed differently. And we'll get into that in this presentation. So banking as an LLC and S Corp, super simple. You just apply for an EIN on the IRS website. And then once that's given to you, it's an automated process. You can then take that to a bank and they will open a bank account for the business. And that's a really clean way as well to separate business and personal finances. So business accounting, how is it really done? How's the nitty gritty done? And it's usually done through software programs. I have never met anyone who has paper books. I've never even seen one, maybe in like a history book or something. But in the US, QuickBooks seems to be the standard. And this graphic here is breaking down adoption of different bookkeeping softwares by country. These are all English-speaking countries, but I think that sort of normalizes it. So QuickBooks, extremely prevalent within the United States, Canada, maybe Mexico. Xero is the global equivalent. It's much more focused on currency exchanges, has some more functionality there. And then you can always just use Excel. You do not need to pay a subscription to keep your books. You can use Excel. You just need to talk with your accountant, whoever's preparing your taxes, that they are comfortable with your ability to manage your books that way. And maybe they have some pointers for you as well. So the reason for any of these things is to create financial statements. So at the end of the year, you close your books, you create these financial reports, these three big financial statements, and you send it to your tax preparer, your enrolled agent, or your CPA. We have a bookkeeping service. We have two tiers currently. First tier is a coaching tier. It's $50 a month. It includes the QuickBook license. And our goal is to empower business owners or startup owners to learn their own books and maybe enable them to bring that bookkeeping in-house if they have maybe a virtual assistant or an intern or another employee that they'd like to train to run the books. This would be perfect for that. The full service tier that we offer, it's $150 a month, up to 100 transactions per month. Also includes the QuickBook license. And beyond 100 transactions, we'll talk about the price there. Obviously, more transactions, more time, more work. So business tax, this is the big boogeyman that I think prevents a lot of people who would otherwise be very successful business owners from actually starting. So the first thing to understand is it's okay to feel fear about the IRS and taxes. Just don't let it stop you. Find those people who can help you understand more about the system, and that will help you be more calm, be more confident. Anytime you learn more about something, you're also de-risking it. You're going to make fewer mistakes. You're still going to make mistakes, but you're going to make fewer mistakes than if you didn't search out those sources. Why is business taxation different? And why is it worth understanding the difference between how businesses are taxed versus individuals? And it's because businesses have favorable tax treatment. The tax code incentivizes business creation and business spending, really. So here we have a side-by-side of an individual and a business. They're earning the same amount, they're taxed at the same rate, and they have the same expenses. But as you can see, in the individual column, he gets his $100 from his job. He's then taxed at 20%. He's $80 left. $70 of expenses. He's left with $10 to save. Okay, let's see the business. Same $100 are earned. They have $70 in expenses to earn that $100. They have $30 remaining. They're taxed then at the same 20% rate, leading to $24 to save. So why are these different? They have the same tax rate, they have the same expenses, but the order of operations is different. So if you're a W-2 employee, you earn your wage and you're taxed on that immediately. And then after you're taxed, you then spend to live your life. As a business, you earn revenue you have expenses that you pay before you're taxed, and then only after on the net profit, right? Then you're taxed. It just changes the order of operations, and you can see at the end the business has more money left. So income tax as a pass-through entity, this would be an LLC, a sole proprietorship, or an S corp. All of these entities pass through their earnings to your 1040. So they don't pay any income tax on the earnings. It's all goes to your 1040, and you as the individual pay the tax. This is different from a corporate tax you might hear of. That would be a C corp, and we're not talking about C corps today. C corps are much more complicated, much more out of the reach of the average person. And if you're going to start a business, it's likely not going to be a C corp unless this is not your first business. But if this is your first business, just focus on these and talk to those experts, right? Figure out why the C corp isn't the right one. We don't have time today, but you can always give me a call. Other tax types. So there's self-employment tax, which is part of having your own business or self-employed income. Also payroll taxes. If you have any W-2 employees, you'll have to manage payroll taxes as a business. And then sometimes, depending on the business, there's an excise tax, sales tax, local taxes. So there's good and bad news about business tax. The good news is that paying to have your taxes prepared and filed is a business expense. So you won't have to pay for QuickBooks anymore. Your personal taxes and the business taxes will be done all at once, either by yourself. You could still pay QuickBooks or you could still pay TurboTax, but that expense would be a business expense, and so deductible against the business income. And then paying a bookkeeper like myself is also a business expense. So that allows you to focus on what you love most. And that could be working on your own books and understanding your business closely, or training your employees. Or it could be, here, take my books, do them, and I'm going to focus on painting houses, right? Specialization in labor. Bad news is that the IRS has broad powers and all the resources of the federal government, and they use them. Making sure that your books are appropriate and that you're filing taxes on time, making estimated payments, you stay on their good side. Because filing all these additional documents, you're also increasing your risk of an audit. Just sort of par for the course. There's a lot of advantages, and this is just something, a piece of regulation to stay ahead of, so that way you don't get into trouble. So you can follow us for the 20% summary. As always, 20% of this presentation will have provided 80% of the value, and we'll be posting on social medias about this presentation, the broad ideas, so you can pick them up there. Thank you for joining us. If you've enjoyed this, please give us a follow. Reach out anytime for bookkeeping, small business support.